It's so wonderful to be here today, and I just want to say welcome and thanks for hanging out with us tonight at ICG. I think I know a few of you, but I look forward to getting to know you even more tonight, and even off, I suppose, this forum as well, outside of this forum, perhaps linking in and all the rest of it would be fantastic. Thanks for the intro, Wendy. That's fantastic. I really do appreciate that. So as Wendy said, you know, I've had quite the colourful career, and I'd like to share with you tonight everything to do with communication, connection, and influence, because it really, really matters to me. But more importantly, communication is a skill that we should all master. But before I start, if I may, I'd love to know a little bit about you, and I guess what is it that you do? What industry are you in? Are you working? Are you running a business? Do you run a team? So that I'm familiar, and so that I guess, fill your night with packs and packs of value, so you can walk away to be able to implement it immediately. So be curious, what do you guys do? Tell me a little bit. You can go off mute for a little bit if that's okay, Wendy, or you can pop it in the chat, whatever suits. I'm cool. Who'd like to start? Or I might just go around. Would that be easier?
Well, Marley has posted so Marley is one of our wonderful BNI members, and Marley has posted in her chat that she's a nutritionist and she runs her own business.
Awesome. So maybe pop it in the chat. Great idea. Wonderful. So family, oh, fantastic, Diane. Thank you so much. Wow, that's awesome. Team of case managers within homelessness. Amanda, that's terrific. Fantastic. Primary school teacher. Wonderful. Thanks, Andrea. Nutritionist. Hypnotherapist and naturopath. Wonderful, Stephanie. Thank you. So we have a variety of amazing professionals and incredible individuals here tonight. Local government with homelessness. Yep, great. Estate agent. Thanks, Simone. Lovely to see you too, Colleen. Fantastic. Brilliant. Thank you for sharing, guys. Awesome. Motor mechanic workshop. Terrific. Well done. Conveyancer. So a variety of different industries. That's terrific. And, you know, I guess each and every one of you work with people, not just yourselves. And so communication really, really matters. Yoga. So is it Bay or is it B? Please let me know so that I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Fantastic. Wonderful. Fundraiser, charity. B. Awesome. Thank you so much, B. That's terrific. Thanks, guys. And as Wendy said, I do love interaction and engagement. I think it's really key. You know, let's be a little bit sort of relaxed here tonight, and I'm happy for you to come off mute and have a chat. I'm cool with that. Really relaxed sort of environment. What I've done tonight for you is I've put together, and I just want to say thank you for sharing what it is that you do. It really, really matters what you do, and it shows that it matters even more, and that you're incredible human beings being here tonight and wanting to learn, I guess, some other skills, tools, tips and tricks and strategies on how to better communicate, because it really does matter for us to be able to connect and then influence people. And I'm going to share some stuff with you today. But firstly, if I may, I have prepared some PowerPoints. I don't want to do just a PowerPoint thing. I don't want it to make it like a teachy thing. So I'll come and go with my PowerPoint, if that's okay with you. But I just want to sort of share with you a couple of things, if I may. So where's my screeny thing? Here we go. Alrighty, I can still see you, which is great. Awesome. So a little bit about me. I trust that you can see this nice and clear. That's me at Centrelink. So I worked for the federal government for 17 years, but prior to that, I've managed and led many teams over the years. I've led call centres within the sort of the big banks and other sort of, I guess, departments within the finance industry. And then in 1999, just before my daughter was born, I wanted something more. I just needed something more. And so, you know, community services was always a thing for me, and I needed to be able to help people on a larger scale. So I decided to apply for the federal government. And after lots of time, it was very, very many months before I could get in. I was finally accepted into the federal government, which is terrific. And so I worked with Centrelink for 17 years, and I led 8 teams to their success, roughly around 500 plus staff. And of course, for people who know Centrelink, thousands of customers come and go from those offices every single week. And the customer base there is very vulnerable. You know, we have people from, you know, homeless to victims of crime to prisoners and ex-offenders to parents to retirees, and the list goes on. 82 different payment streams and 82 different I guess areas within the organisation that needs managing. Even more than that, 10 years I was very privileged to work in one of Victoria's largest male dominant prisons. I worked in there for 10 years, and that was, I have to say, probably the best time of my life. I loved it. It was just such a huge learning curve in terms of communication, in terms of connection, influence, just getting human behavior, getting to know people and how it is that they, you know, why it is that they do what they do, what makes them tick. And it was an incredible time for me. And I interviewed and released over 29,000 prisoners in that 10-year period. It was incredible. So that's 29,000 different personalities who I interviewed one-on-one. So what was happening there was every Tuesday I'd be running a group seminar with anywhere between 20 to 80 prisoners in front of me, and then it would be one-on-one with them after that. In 2013, we sold our property and moved to Melbourne. And I continued with the department for a little bit, led some more teams, I guess, on the Bayside area. So Frankston, Cheltenham, for those of you who know the area, two of the largest offices in our zone. And then I left in 2017. I left and went full time in my business. Since then, I've been facilitating internationally for small business, startups, and training and I guess for startups and businesses. And I took a year off, and for a whole year, I actually did a bit of a case study with people who suffered from disabilities, mental illness, you know, offenders. I had 84 people on my caseload, and I studied them deeply. And that I learned a lot from in terms of human behaviour and communication again. So that was quite an interesting journey for me and everyone there. So I've done some training around customer aggression. I don't know if anybody here knows Eddie Carter's negotiation and crisis intervention. It's quite an intense customer aggression training. So I've been a member of that, and I've been a part of that. Leadership training, coaching, mentoring, and a lot of other things. So that's just basically introducing you a little bit about and telling you a little bit about me and why and what makes me the expert and why do I know what I know. So what communication means to me and why I'm so passionate about it. You know, communication is so much more than just, you know, for me, it means basically a person, focusing on the person. It means confidence. It means self-love. It means optimism. It means curiosity. It means everything, really. Holistically, communication is the be all and end all of a human being and how we create relationships. You know, it's influencing people. It's coming from a place of acceptance is what it means for me. It's getting curious about the whole person, judgment-free, everything. And that actually, my passion for communication played a huge role, particularly when I was working in the prison system. Now, you've got to remember, people in prisons and victims of crime and people who've been sexually abused and people who've been abused and physically and verbally abused, they've already got this fear thing up. You know, they've already got a wall up. And so to be able to get past that wall is huge, and it's about knowing the right way to communicate with people. That's what communication means for me. I'd love to know, what does communication mean for you? Please pop it in the chat, or you can come up and have a chat with me now, or unmute yourself, whatever you like. But what does it mean for you?
So anyone can take themselves off mute.
Yeah, take yourself off mute. Let's have a bit of a conversation.
Put your hand up or just talk.
Hey,
Hi.
B.
Hi. Sorry, I'm going to confess that I really wanted to be here, but I'm cooking dinner as well. So I'm sorry that I'm not. I just don't want to disturb you all. So communication for me is honesty,
right,
and transparency. But for me, there's also this connection from the heart, like through to the voice, and to have that compassion, which is the absolute opposite to how I've been brought up.
Right.
So it's kind of, there's got to be that real connection, and then that understanding of how to speak, like, and how to connect and how to communicate.
Totally.
And that's what I would love to know more about, because communication and relationship for me is so massive, because I'm triggered so easily and I get the wall up so easily. So it's there's also a sensitivity around communication as well, I think, the way that we communicate and connect.
Absolutely. That's awesome. I just want to say thank you so much for sharing that, Bea. That's fantastic. And I love that you said the language around it, because learning I guess unless we know what we want to say, we just don't know how to say it. And
that's exactly right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we know what we want to say, but we just don't know how to find the words to express.
It's the clarity, isn't it? There's that clarity.
Absolutely. And, I'm going to share some stuff with you in a minute as to, because I too, the reason why I wanted to, interview all these people and really get down and dirty and deep with human beings was exactly that, Bea, and everyone else is probably, in the same boat here, is that how do we communicate with people? Like, how the hell do we get the words out so that we can hit the right notes, so to speak, so that we actually get into the person who's listening to us? And that's a skill, right? Because we don't know what we don't know. And particularly, like, Bea, I can relate to you too when you're saying, with your conditioning and your upbringing, I'm very similar. And I trust who else here can resonate, can sort of relate to what Bea's saying. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so we're not taught this stuff in school. We're not taught this stuff at home. And so to learn this stuff really matters, because let's face it, communication, guys, is absolutely not just verbal. It's so much more. I'm going to show you some extraordinary stats here tonight. It's going to blow your mind. So it's really key to learn the skill on a deeper level, and that is exactly how to find the language around. So thank you. Would anybody else love to share, please? What does communication mean to you?
Alex, just while someone's talking, I'll just share, Giorgio put in the chat that communication means that the message being sent is the message being received.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Giorgio. I love that. And that is a skill too. Sorry to interrupt, Marcia. That is a skill too, to be able to articulate it in a way that it actually hits the listener exactly how you want them to hear it. And there's a skill around that too, which I will share with you. So thank you so much, Giorgio. That's terrific. Sorry, Marcia.
Yeah, that's okay. It kind of leads on from that. I think an essential part of communication starts with listening, because only when you've heard what the person has to say do you actually know how to deliver the message in a way that they're going to hear it.
Yeah.
The first component, I think, is the listening.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that, Marcia. I appreciate that. Listening is everything. And it's not just listening to hear, it's listening to understand. And by that, I mean, it's observing the person from the time they walk into your office. You're so very welcome, Bea. Thank you so much for sharing your meaning of communication. I appreciate that. It's listening to hear from the moment that person walks in your door, walks in your room, whatever. It starts from there. The communication starts from there. And I love what you said, Marcia, and you're 100% right there. It's listening to see, to hear, to feel, to everything, that's how we communicate effectively. And I want to share with you today, if I may, two experiences with you, one in the prison system and the other within my teams, to show you there's a similarity and yet a difference when it comes to communicating, listening to hear. So I'm going to share some stuff with you here today. Anyone else? Would anybody else here like to share what communication means? Now, I've seen a couple of hands go up. I think Simone. Yes, go right ahead. Thanks, Marcia. Yes. I appreciate that.
Sorry, my husband's composing in the background, so I hope it's not coming through.
That's fine.
I wanted to say, as a salesperson, one of the key things I need to always remember is that everyone's seeing communication through their own individual lens.
Beautiful.
So what I need to do as a professional is always check in with people after I've delivered some information, to check in that they've actually heard what I meant them to hear or what I want them to understand.
Beautiful. Simone, thank you so much. Such an important point right there. Often we think we hear what someone shares with us, but I love how Simone said that it's important to check and clarify that what they said was what you sort of understood, so that everybody is on the same page. And so questioning is key. And I'm going to share with you some stuff around questioning today as well. So thank you, Simone. Wonderful. Jan.
Yeah, that just brought up the thought that it's the speaker's responsibility to make sure that the listener understands the message. It's too often there'll be a speaker who says, oh, you get what I mean? But we can't assume that we get what we mean. So what Simone was saying, it's the speaker's responsibility to make sure that the listener actually does get the message that you're expecting. And if they don't, then you've got to change the way you're expressing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing your perspective, Jan. Absolutely. That's exactly right. So whoever it is that's communicating, and if it's something that you're wanting, so if it's you that's initiating the conversation and you're wanting a result, then it is your responsibility, absolutely, to make sure that you articulate that message appropriately for that person, according to their communication style and how it is that they want to they need to understand it. And again, as Simone said, it is about asking questions to gain clarity, and it's asking the right questions, which I'll share with you in a moment, just some different types of questions later on in this presentation. Thank you, Jan. Thanks, Simone. One more person. Anyone else would like to share? Just one more person. Anne, thank you.
Yes. I'm a lecturer.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Sorry, I have to come a bit closer.
Please, yeah.
I'm a lecturer, and I teach leadership and business studies at the university. And all my students are international students. So they come from all over the world, South America, North America, Europe, China, Vietnam, Malaysia. So I've got a real mixture of students. Communicating with them is, I won't say a challenge, but I think I'd like to say that being authentic and your true self, and they pick it up. They pick that up from you, and I sometimes I really enjoy my classes. I really enjoy working with this diverse group of students. Communicating up, as I said, it was to be authentic, and I think is also winning their trust over. Yeah. They're comfortable with you. These are important things. I mean, it's body language. It's not only what we say, but everything else that we do.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Anne. Absolutely. And you mentioned that you've got a variety of different cultures whom you, I guess, communicate with on a regular basis. And you've got that extra step as well, because when you're dealing with people from a different culture, you've also got to be really mindful of body language, because not everybody, like Australia, we have certain body language here. But I know that having worked in prisons too with certain people, I've had to interview guys not facing them because their religion doesn't allow a woman to look in the eyes of a man. So I've had to literally turn my chair like this and interview someone for a whole hour not looking at them. So I get it. So you're probably, that's quite a challenge, and it's quite a skill to have. So well done to be able to communicate with those people effectively. Do you find it challenging? Do you have you had situations where perhaps the communication has been broken somewhere along the line, and then you've had to do something? How do you combat that?
In my previous jobs, I've worked and I've traveled overseas a lot, Europe, parts of Asia, America.
Right.
So I've developed that skill over the years. It also helps that I speak 7 languages, not fluently, but I manage. So when you're with someone who speaks French, I just blurt out in my broken French, and they feel comfortable.
Fantastic. That's awesome. It does help to know a few languages, doesn't it? Well done. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing, Anne. Well done, and congratulations on the amazing role that you play. That's terrific.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So guys, we heard here today from a few people the importance of, and what I guess communication means to each and every one of us. And I just want to share with you now the importance of and why effective communication really does matter. And I think all of you guys, most of you nailed it. The thing is, it is about creating trust. And when we're communicating, it is about finding common ground. Human beings want to feel like we belong, right? So common ground breaks the ice. We spoke before everyone came on about salt and pepper hairdos, right? So at the end of the day, we've all gone, oh yeah, the hairdressers, we need a hairdresser or nail person or whatever. So all of a sudden we've broken the ice and we're starting to trust each other. And so it's really just finding something you can talk about. It could be a dog, it could be coffee, it could be grass, whatever, Bunnings, doesn't matter. Find a common ground. That's really key to be able to develop that trust and rapport. And that then creates that deeper connection, that influence. You know, I always say to people whom I work with, influence just happens. It absolutely just happens. You don't, it's not effort. You know how you get some people that say, you know, I've got to make them do this, or I've got to make my team do that, or how am I going to get my team to do this? Well, you really don't have to if you've done the first two, and that's communicate effectively to connect. The influence comes automatically. Believe me, I've tried this. You know, years and years and years I've been working with all these different people from different backgrounds with different barriers, and influence just happens. So it's about when we get the first two right, the rest happens, it just flows and it gives us the results. You know, effective communication is also important because it creates safety for us. So if you're working in a position, and I know a lot of you shared before where you're working, and I appreciate that, a lot of those industries can be quite risky, you know, it could turn at any time. So to be able to tap into effective communication creates a safe place for us. It's safety for you, but also for those people around you. And also it's important because it breaks down potential conflict and aggression, which I'll share with you in a minute. And of course, it's a bridge builder. It's a bridge builder. So what I want to do right now, if I may, is I want to share with you a story which has, you know, I experience and I use a lot because it's powerful. Can anyone recognize what this is? Probably can. Solitary confinement. Bang, bang. I've just put it up there on the right. So very many years ago, as I said to you, when I was working out at the prison, every Tuesday I would rock up to the prison after going through security, the big doors, all the rest of it, and I'd get a list of prisoners whom I'd have to interview. So I'd never met them before. It's whomever the parole board released that week, or were going to release 3 months ahead, I would need to see that week. And this one day I walked into the prison and the coordinator said to me, Alex, we've got a bit of a situation. Today you have to interview someone who is in solitary confinement. He's actually in the slot, they used to call it, right? And I'd say, yep, no worries. Well, what does that mean for me? What that means is that you need to interview him at the doorway. You're not allowed to go into his cell. But behind you, there will be 2 to 3 prison officers as well. So suddenly, what happened was a lot of things. One is that there'll be no privacy because the questions I asked these guys were quite personal and quite deep. Secondly, I needed to create rapport and this guy to trust me from the doorway. So where you can see it there, the doorway was quite a distance because he was, you know, these guys either are dangerous or whatever. So I needed to, and I didn't know him, so I needed to somehow create rapport, the trust. And I also needed to remember his environment, where he was in, not to mention the fact that I had prison officers, in their language, screws right behind me. And so suddenly, and I was from a department which a lot of guys didn't like. So I had all these barriers that I needed to pretty much break down before I got to his door. So I needed to structure stuff in my head. How am I going to do this to be able to get to this guy, right? So anyway, I got to the door, and whilst I was walking there, I was wondering, how am I going to do this? So notice I've got threat on there. It was a threat for me, but it's also a threat for him. So suddenly we have 2 people who are in survival mode, initial response. He would have been thinking, who the hell is this woman just about to interview me? And I was thinking, who the hell is this guy? What's he done? Why is he in solitary confinement? They've asked me not to step in his cell and not give him my pen because he might stab me. Great. And all these things were going through my head. So suddenly we've gone through the phase, right? So I've had to, survival instinct, how am I going to work this? So I started assessing things, and I did this in every situation. I created this for myself. I assessed my triggers, the feelings, my thoughts. How was I going to behave? How was I going to be with him? And I needed to adjust me. Like Simone and a couple of others, I think Marcia said earlier, that it's about adjusting ourselves, and Jan, you know, to communicate effectively. Long story short, I got to his door and I sat and I apologized. The first thing I did was I said hello and I apologized to him. I said, I just want to say this really effing sucks. I am so effing sorry. And straight away, I broke down his barriers. Can anyone tell me why?
Because validation.
Language.
Oh.
Yeah. Validation. I spoke his language. He was expecting, like all the other workers that were there before I started taking over this role, that I was going to be this person just because I wore a badge, that I was going to speak down to him. But that's right, I validated him. I apologized in his language. It wasn't as nice as what I said, by the way. I needed to play. I was in their home essentially, so I needed to speak the speak. And then I said to him, thanks for answering the question, guys, too. I said to him, do you want to do this here? Like, do you want to do this here or do you want to wait? Because I'm cool to wait, right? This is about you. It's not about me. It's okay. Don't worry about the people behind me. This is you and me right now. Do you want to do this now or do you want to wait? And he goes, you know, miss, it's okay. Let's do this. I said, are you sure, mate? Because if you don't, and from there it just went. So I needed to remember, I needed to very swiftly, very quickly, even the way I sat was very masculine, but very relaxed. So my body needed to be not in a female suity type of person. It needed to be in a way where I positioned my physiology in a way where he felt that I was just a blokey's bloke. And I sat in a way that he felt comfortable and he didn't feel threatened either. Because although he's a prisoner, doesn't mean he's not human, right? So he still has those feelings, those emotions. He went through the same 3 steps that I was going through as well in his mind. That's a pretty powerful thing to know. In every instance, it doesn't matter whether it's prison, it doesn't matter whether you're working in a homeless, in a community services organisation, state, federal, whatever. It doesn't matter if you're working as a hairdresser or a salesperson. Everybody goes through that. It's a phase that we all go through because we don't know the person. So we go through the phases, and the person who's going to be initiating the conversation, like you guys said earlier, it's about positioning yourself in that situation so that you can break down the ice and change your vocabulary, change the tone of your voice. I spoke like a blokey bloke, real rough and whatever, and I use words I don't use at home. So, and it's about breaking the ice. So I'm curious, with that, how does that sit with you? Has anyone experienced anything similar? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, I think I experienced sometimes with the people who from different atmosphere, from another environment. And if we want to communicate with them effectively, we choose to use their language. For example, if you're communicating with the farmers, you try to use even the jargon of those people to be more understandable for them and to create a rapport with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Sergey. Absolutely. Is it Sergey?
Sergey.
Sergey, thank you so much. Absolutely. And it's listening to, isn't it? It's listening to what has not been said, but also listening to how they use their words so that when it's time for you to open your mouth and speak, that you're speaking exactly like them. Because as soon as I started using his language and I started sitting the way that I knew I needed to sit, like like a don't give a shit type of sitting, right? So I just sort of sat the way he needed me to sit, so that all of a sudden I wasn't like the prisoners behind me, nor was I like the previous worker, prim and proper. I was authentically me, so that I can build rapport with him. And same with farmers, you know, you're not going to stick your suit on and go see a farmer and expect to build rapport. It's just not going to happen. So you're going to need to know about cows and sheep and all the rest of that stuff, and poo and all that, right? So it's all the same. It's no matter what you're doing, same with sales and everything. So it's almost like a journey. It's almost like you're preparing every time, and it gets easier and it gets quicker. It gets easier and it gets quicker. So I've had many instances within my career. I've had instances where we've had a guy where I was serving and he grabbed me by the throat. I've actually included this in my recent book, where I was serving him because he was under the influence of ice. He grabbed me by the throat and he asked me for $5 for a packet of smokes. Now, I went through the same thing. My initial threat was obviously to move away and to press the security button. Moved away, and I said to him, you need to sit down. You just need to sit down. I can't help you right now. So I needed to be able to influence him with my communication and tell him it was okay. And then he broke down in tears and apologized. So depending on the circumstances, we need to be able to adjust everything about us. It's not about the other person. So I trust that makes sense. Oops. What I've done is I've just prepared this, this is quite a behavioral flexibility thing, doing it on Zoom, isn't it? One thing I thought I'd prepare for you is, this is what I use quite a lot. So effective communication always starts with self. Someone mentioned earlier, it's about knowing the language and how to articulate it. Well, it starts from self. It's about personal development. It's knowing what your triggers are and how you react. It's knowing what actually sets you off and what doesn't. But even more than that, it's learning deeper. Well, why does this set me off and how can I respond differently? Because it's in our response that we receive the response from the other person. So if we respond in a certain way that's going to, so for example, if someone is aggressive in front of you, and you respond in a defensive way, that aggression is going to escalate tenfold. However, if someone is aggressive in front of you and you're in control of your triggers and your emotions, you will lower your voice and you will change the way in which you're speaking with him or her, and you will acknowledge them and let them speak, because that they will do the same. So their voice does come down without us even trying. It's just a normal thing that happens psychologically with human beings. And so it really is important for us to know ourselves so well to be able to control. So and this is, I use the AAA method, which I've put together for myself. And I think a few of you have shared that with me too. It's about showing up as authentic, and it's assessing yourself first and then adjusting. So adjusting to communicate, connect, and influence will happen. In terms of the customer or your team members, what they want from us is just to get along. It's just to be accepted. They just want certainty, stability as well, because they're just as on alert as what you are. And they're fearful of being judged, be it the prisoner, be it the salesperson, whoever it is. And they need to feel that they matter, that they're enough, and that they're worthy as well. So notice that there's a balance right here, and we're all the same. Does that make sense, guys? And that's what sort of helps us through. Are there any questions at all so far? And it's important when using their language, you do it in a way that is not disrespectful. Amanda, absolutely, absolutely. And needing to adapt to their environment as well, fit for purpose. Yeah, totally. Awesome. Fantastic. So over the years, I guess I've learned that no matter where we're working or what we're doing, whether it's personal, professional, it's the same thing. And what I noticed over the years is that we all go through the same process. And I remember back in 2014, I just want to share something with you again. In 2014, I worked for, as you know, the federal government. And what happened was on the 16th of December, the then Minister for Human Services decided that they were going to bring online services for the federal government department. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because we went through the same thing. Suddenly we were told Australia-wide that all Centrelink clients were meant to do their stuff online. Now that posed a problem. Again, we went through threat, assess, and adjust. And this is one of my team that I used to manage at one of the offices in Bayside. And we were suddenly told that we needed to roll this out. And so what happened, not only did the team started to become threatened, they were threatened with, oh my God, what are we going to do? Suddenly all of our clients who are vulnerable, a lot of them have literacy and numeracy barriers. A lot of them don't even have computers. What about the retirees that have never used a computer, or people who've never used it? All these things were going through our head. So suddenly it was a team environment, yet the same process was being had. So we were going through threat. We needed to assess what we were feeling. We needed to adjust our communication and behavior. So for me as a leader, what I found was that my team and also the clients were going through fear. And there was resistance, and there was unplanned leave, and there was uncertainty and anger. With the clients, there was increased aggression, both physical and verbal. We needed to get security guards in the offices for that period, because we were having a lot of people coming in with weapons because they were so angry with what the government was doing. And so obviously as staff members, we were on the firing line. So it was a really stressful time for everybody. Yet as a leader, I needed to be able to communicate in a way where it was going to appease people and create some certainty, and then teach people how to better communicate to clients to get the message across, so that everyone's then feeling comfortable and back feeling certain again with what's happening. And that's okay, they're going to have help, and it's okay, we've got each other's back. And it was quite a scary and quite a difficult and challenging time for everyone. Can anyone remember that time? Was anyone have any clients that they were dealing with in that time?
Can I share? So I can. One of my very, very best friends actually was a part of the project that rolled that out. And she did a lot of travelling around. She ended up staying with me a lot because she flitted between Canberra and Melbourne and Sydney and Brisbane and everywhere, Tasmania. And it was I remember her telling me it was a really challenging time, for not only for the clients, but definitely for the teams. It was a massive time of change, massive.
Totally massive. Yeah, thanks, Wendy. Absolutely. And it's hard to know what people are feeling, like you sort of understand, but to be able to get through to them, particularly when there's so much anger and so much aggression and so much resistance, it's really difficult to get through to someone in that instance. So knowing why it's happening, but also knowing how to better communicate really matters. To be able to break through that wall, that fear wall, is really, really key. And so one thing I did with my staff is I actually showed them this. And it was incredible, because I said to them, look, customers are coming in with weapons and all the rest of it, and they're angry. We also had staff that were quite aggressive too. But what was happening was the anger was just the tip of the iceberg. There was so much going on underneath all of that. And so there was a fear factor, confusion. Anger doesn't just happen. Anger is basically, it's a secondary emotion. And so it's a result of whatever's happening underneath. And sometimes we don't know how to react. We don't know how to language what we're feeling. It comes back to knowing how to language, knowing how to communicate what we're wanting to communicate. We just react. And when we're reactive, it's either anger or aggression. And this is why it's not one thing, the way that when someone is doing anger, when someone is aggressive, I allow them to be. And I know, and a lot of people sort of say they've got no right to be angry, or they react to anger. But the thing is, it's okay. It's the way in which they're handling it, and how we respond to it is what happens next. It's the difference that makes the difference. So to know this, that it's not them, it's actually they don't know how to language it, is really, really important. So, you know, I truly believe that communication, to be able to communicate effectively, starts with self. It really does. I've done very many years of personal development. I've attended so many trainings. It's crazy. But that's helped me to be able to develop my skills, to be able to develop the way in which I communicate with people, both verbally and non-verbally, to be able to use my language with volition, and to mean what I say and say what I mean, sort of thing. And a lot of managers, a lot of businesses think that soft skills aren't necessary. They're just woo-woo and all the rest of it. But the thing is, it's so very important for us to be able to connect with people and to know how to go about that. But to do that first is about knowing ourselves first. It's to have that communication knowledge. And let's face it, right? We're all unique, and so we all communicate differently. So personal development is really, really key. So I've created my AAA effective communication model, and I use this quite a lot. And the way in which I explain this, guys, is anything you do, make sure it's intentional. Make sure that you ask people permission, like I did that guy in the prison cell. Is it okay if we do this now? Like, are you cool with doing this now? It gives them permission. And when we ask people permission, what happens is that it gives them more control. They feel like they're in control, and the fear factor starts to diminish. So it's really key for us to be intentional and to be committed to the situation right there, to be committed to the person. But what's important even more is to be congruent. What that means is bring holistically, your body language must be in tune with and align with the tone in your voice, along with what's coming out of your mouth. And the reason I included environment there is if you've actually got an office space and people are coming into your office space, to create that safe space as well, so that everything that's communicating is aligned. So the person who walks in feels comfortable. I trust that makes sense. And active listening, I know that a few of you mentioned active listening before. Active listening is such a huge thing. It's about us shifting our internal and externally. It's about our vision, people's visual cues. It's being visually, I guess, aware of what's going on around us and how people are moving. It's validating, acknowledging, and reframing. But then, as a couple of you shared earlier, to gain clarity around that as well, it's by asking effective questioning. And so I've just included a couple of questioning, I guess, different questioning models there. So there's, open questions, awareness questions, gauging questions, all different types of questions. And I'm happy to share them with you if you'd like me to flick you the PDF later, just so that you have some questions to take away with you to get deep, to get a deeper understanding with where people are coming from. What sort of questioning skills do you use when you're wanting some clarity from people that you're communicating with?
Feeding back to them, reframing.
Reframing, yeah, awesome.
Hierarchy of idea.
Sorry, Sergio?
Yeah, chunking down and up, across.
Awesome, fantastic. So you do the hierarchy of language?
Yes.
Fantastic. What other questioning skills do you use when you're questioning?
I ask people, how does that look like for you, or how does that feel for you?
Yep, and that works?
Yeah.
Awesome, fantastic, wonderful. Questioning is incredible. Questioning, a lot of people, I've spoken to so many people and they say, oh, I don't want to question because I feel like I'm interrogating. Questioning is so key, and it depends on how we do it, because when we're asking people questions, they feel like we care about them, that we want to know about them. And it's in the questions that we ask that really matters. So it's okay to ask questions. Even if you're a leader, I noticed a few of you are managing teams as well. These performance reviews and performance assessments, you know, I've had quite a few in my day, and I've also done quite a few in my day as well. And so, you know, what questions are you asking there? Are you actually connecting and influencing, or are you just going through a scripted thing? It's really important to be able to personalize it, and really important to be able to tailor it to the person whom you're speaking with, so that it actually lands with them and they feel like they're an individual. That's really key, because often what happens in teams is that I guess people ask the same questions over and over again, and it's as if it's just like a tick and flick, and it's so impersonal. Would you agree? It's crazy. So it's really about changing the questioning to suit that person, and reframing those questions.
Alex, Jan's brought up an interesting point, which might be interesting to
Oh, sorry, I didn't say it.
That's all right. Jan, do you just want to talk to that for a minute? I think that's an interesting point.
Yeah, that's thank you. Thanks, Wendy. Alex, I just
Jan.
put in the chat, I used to think questioning was rude.
Yeah.
Because someone would say, I mean, like today I was walking with someone and she said she's catching up with a couple of friends, and I said, so what usually happens? Do you make the effort to catch up, or do they contact you? And her immediate question was very defensive. It was like, what do you mean by that? And so I've been raised with that sort of reaction. It was like a parent or a teacher would say something, and to say, can you give me more detail, or what, was almost like I was questioning their authority. And now trying to be, being a coach, I've had to really learn that asking questions is actually validating the person.
Yeah.
Because I'm curious. The curiosity, it trumps the, whatever the rudeness is.
Thank you so much.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jan. I really appreciate, and I'm sorry I missed your comment there, and it is very valid. And I just want to validate and acknowledge you there, because absolutely, I was raised the same, and I wonder who else here can relate to that questioning is almost like you are questioning someone's authority. Absolutely. And even in a work environment, how often do our managers and team leaders allow us to ask questions, or it doesn't happen? And when we do ask questions, it's like as if you're the problem child. Has anyone ever had that title before? Yeah, me too. It's like, why are you asking me a question? I've asked you what to do, just do it. You know, and so Jan makes...
Sorry. Yeah, I guess it was like when you're 4, you go, why is that, Mum? Why is that, Mum? Why is that like that? Why are those ladies got big tummies? Why? And it would have been, just stop it. I haven't got the time. I haven't got the energy to give you the answers to everything. And that shuts down kids really young from asking questions and being curious. It's actually really sad.
Yeah, it is really sad. I agree with you 100%, because it shuts us up, doesn't it? And it doesn't allow us to share our voice or to have a voice. And interesting you raised that, Jan, as well. Before COVID restrictions, I used to run a lot of presentations for council, and we were talking about questions, and a lady who was from I can't remember her background, but she put up a hand and she said, we're not allowed to ask questions in our culture. It's disrespectful, just like what you said, Jan. Absolutely. And so that in itself is knowing self even deeper, knowing where the triggers are coming from, but also maybe looking at questions from a different perspective, because it depends on how we ask the question. You know, when we ask questions, we're learning, we're growing, we're looking at different things, we're allowing room for opportunities and possibilities, rather than just shutting up and just putting up with it and not asking, but for what purpose, or why are we doing this, or can we perhaps do it differently? So it's something that when it's not, even in schools, I remember, I'm just going to share something real quick. I remember my son was in a cooking class, and his teacher told him how to make tzatziki. Now, I'm Greek, right? And if anyone knows how to make tzatziki, it's me and my family. So my son put his hand up and said, "Miss, why are you making it with sour cream?" She sent him off to detention. He texted me and said, "I'm in detention." I said, "Well, what for? What'd you do this time?" And he said, "No, I put my hand up and asked why she's using sour cream when that's not how you make tzatziki." And I said, "You got detention for that? What the hell?" So anyway, I got in touch with the teacher and I spoke, and we had a bit of a conversation there. It starts from school. It starts from our conditioning and our school, and it's just got to change. We've got to, questions are the answer. Aren't they? Question is the answer. End of story. And to continuously ask is how we get the answer that we want. Tanya shares, in the past, I wasn't comfortable challenging a doctor's decision, but now I am more inclined to advocate. That's awesome, Tanya. That's awesome. Again, it comes to authority, doesn't it? Well done. And often we get taught that if it's a doctor, if it's a teacher, if it's whoever it is, someone who, even a mentor, don't question them. Question them, absolutely. It's got to do with you. So question them. Questioning is key. Thanks for sharing, guys. Did anyone else want to share any other experiences they've had around questioning? And how are you now with questioning and articulating your communication? Fantastic. Do all of you challenge people's opinions or people's...
One of the things I'll share, a couple of people are off mute, so I'm not sure if they want to talk or not. So Francesca and whether they want to say something. One of the things that's of me listening to you and this conversation is what I've learned over the last 3 years is that questioning is really about, and obviously it's the way you do it, but it's demonstrating, it's about curiosity and interest and being truly genuinely interested in the other person. So it comes down to the, as you said before on your list, the types of questions and the different questions for the different situations, and to demonstrate real curiosity in a really respectful way is really generates a beautiful conversation.
Absolutely.
And a conversation that shows you care about the other person.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it all comes down to having that, thanks, Wendy. It's also about having that alignment with your whole body. So making sure that when you do ask that question, that your physiology is also in that state too. So it's not coming across as interrogation. Instead, you're leaving it open, and it's more of a, I'm really curious, and sort of doing all the little micro movements in your face or in your hands or whatever. It just makes that person a little bit more comfortable. But again, it comes back to culture. It comes back to beliefs. It comes back to the meaning we put on things, the meaning that we give things. That's really important as well. This is why I can't stress enough the importance of personal development and to get to know yourself even more, because the more we get to know our triggers and what triggers us, and often it is because of our conditioning, we react to things rather than respond. For us, though, to be able to communicate effectively with the intention to connect and influence, we must know ourselves first. I want to share with you...
I just want to check in with Francesca first. Francesca, did you want to say something? Because you're off mute.
Where's Francesca?
I'm showing as off mute. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thanks, Francesca. How are you?
I'm really well. Thank you, Alex. I'm really enjoying this session. Thank you for...
You're so welcome.
My background is HR and recruitment, and we always used to fall in, or I always used to hear very vague descriptions of especially as far as the personality profile of a person, or, with performance reviews, there was always niggling areas where the communication just wasn't strong enough to justify anything. You just couldn't do anything with it. So I started asking many, many years ago of asking them to give me an example of how you felt, give me an example how it was at that time. Because then they have to really think about the situation and describe it. And it's amazing how you get quite a different, scenario from when you ask them to dig deeper, basically.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And sometimes they weren't able to come up with an example, so you were there, judging what it really was, or trying to get down to what it was that they wanted to say.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing, Francesca. And you make some really great points. And maybe, just maybe, they weren't able to articulate it because they didn't have the language around telling you how it looked. It's amazing. You know, I've got a couple of new clients at the moment, and one of them who works in a state government department, she's a leader of 3 teams. And she said to me, I just can't get my words out. I don't know how to language blah. I just don't know. I've never sort of experienced it. I've never been around it. I've never, I've never had exposure to it. So how do I language that? So instead, she just doesn't say anything. And the team is saying that she's one of these team leaders who is a people pleaser, but she's not. It's just that basically she doesn't have the language to articulate. So sometimes I think it might even be a nice question to say, are you finding it difficult maybe to get the language around it? Can I help you a little bit? Or can we perhaps look at things and explore different things or different ways? Because, yeah, we get stuck with the language, don't we?
Yes. Yes.
That's a great thing you shared. Guys, I've put some fantastic facts together for you, some fun facts. Who here loves fun facts?
Yeah.
I do too. So I wanted to share some stuff with you around communication. And, you know, some of these facts are quite alarming and some of them are very, very interesting. But, you know, one thing, leaders, you know, spend around 80% of their working day communicating, and yet there's breakdown of communication all the time within teams. Would you agree?
Yes.
They communicate, yet they, you know, they find it difficult to find the language.
I'm on another Zoom. I'm on another Zoom meeting
Mariana.
that I'm trying to.
Pardon?
Mariana, can you mute yourself, please?
Yeah. And some great facts there. Tell me, you know, the way a person moves their body says a lot about their attitude. Our physiology is really, really key. So it's important to be mindful too of how we present ourselves. Have you ever spoken to someone and they've said one thing and yet their physiology is telling you a whole different story? And you think, are you sure? They're like, what, don't you believe me? Well, yes, not really. You're telling me one thing, but you're sort of showing me something different. So shall we do this one again? You know, let's go back and I'll ask the question one more time. So, you know, it's important to be able to have that alignment when we're communicating with people. So if we really care about someone and we want to show someone or tell them that we care, have a caring physiological presentation as well. Present yourself like you really do care, because people pick it up. Us humans pick this sort of stuff up. So there's some great facts there. Are there any that sort of pop out at you, any that you're familiar with or that you know about, any that you want to maybe discuss?
I find it interesting that people have an aversion to, they prefer email instead of face-to-face interaction. It's a small number of people, but I always find things can go so wrong when you write an email, because you don't have all the cues that you get with communication. You can't present the news with a face, with a body language, and people then, if they have their listen bias, you might make a really innocent comment from your point of view in an email, and that person takes it completely different. Whereas if you communicate, you can see that straight away face to face, and you can make adjustments.
Absolutely. Great point you make. And I found that quite interesting as well, Stephanie. Thanks for sharing. Because you're right, in an email, you can't really express emotion. You can use certain words depending on the person that you're speaking with. And absolutely, that's another way of communicating too. And what's great even with email is knowing the way that you communicate, you can adjust your words to suit the person whom you're speaking with via email. But you've got to know how to do that. You know, you've got to have the skill to do that. And this is, again, where so many misinterpretations, misunderstandings happen via email, even texting. Who here's ever sent a text to a friend or a partner or someone, and you're meaning it one way, and then they've said, are you shitty with me? It's like, well, hang on, no. That's not how I meant it. So it's, you know, it's really key to know, I guess, how to express ourselves and whom we're speaking with so that we can express them based on their communication style as well.
Kathy's just asked a big question. If you can have a look at that in the chat, it's a good one. It's I think a fairly common one that can come up in business.
Just try and find the chat. I've lost the chat.
I'll read it out to you. So what if other people don't listen to you as they do to others? For example, she's in business. I could ask Kathy to actually say this. Kathy,
where's Kathy?
Why don't you come off mute and ask your question?
Hi, Kathy. How's it going?
Very well, thank you, Alex. I work in quite a masculine environment, and I attend meetings once a month with 9 men, and I'm the only female. And we're talking about car parts, so it's a masculine, heavy trade environment. But I do find if I make a point in conversation, it gets shut down like a child sometimes, whereas if one of my male colleagues makes the same point, it's discussed quite seriously. So I need to work out how I can express myself in these meetings.
Yeah, great question. You know what my suggestion to you would be? Ask them. As simple as that. You know, I'd ask them, is there a way that I can communicate this to you that's going to make sense to you?
Mm-hmm.
Or, I feel that you're shutting me down. Is that what you're doing? It's okay to ask the question, you know, but again, I think you've got to have, you know, you've got to feel comfortable with doing that. You've got to build that resilience. You've got to build that ability to be able to ask that question. So asking questions, I think, is the best way to get clarity. Otherwise, what happens, and he may not even know that that's what he's doing. In his mind, he probably has no idea. And so simply by just saying, every time I say something, why do you disregard me? Is that what you're doing? Or, you know, just ask the question, and he might say, well, no, actually, I'm not, Kathy. Oh, great. So can you just do it this way maybe, or ask me this way, or communicate it this way? People don't know what they don't know. And I want to thank you for raising that, because it happens all the time. And it's as simple as asking the question. Truly, just ask the question. Yeah. Give it a go and see how you go.
Alex, Tanya's brought up also an interesting point, which we're currently experiencing, that masks are interfering with effective communication. So she's finding she's using her eyes even more.
Yeah. Isn't that incredible? I use my thumb, but cite 82% masks are interfering with effective communication. So tell me, Tanya, thanks for sharing. So when you're smiling, it's coming through your eyes. You know, our eyes, there are actually, one of the statistics on there today, I think there's 19 or something different ways in which we can express communication through our eyes as well as our smile. And so it does make it very difficult to communicate through our eyes.
Yeah, look, I just found being a nurse, and we've got our face mask and then we've got our shield as well.
Yes.
And working with the elderly, their hearing's often impaired, so they're so used to looking at our mouth when we speak to understand all of what we're saying. And now I find that I'm speaking a bit louder, but I'm also gesturing, I suppose,
awesome,
with my eyes.
Yeah,
and really zooming in on them for them to be able to actually understand what we're saying.
Do you use your hands more? Do you find you're using your hands more now? Yeah, and your body?
Yeah, definitely.
So your body and your physiology is compensating for the mouth not being there.
Yeah, when you said thumbs up, I thought, oh yeah, that's what we do all the time now.
Yeah.
So when they ask something and you're nodding your head, and it's like, yeah. So yeah,
we are interesting.
A lot more non-verbal. Yeah.
Non-verbal, yeah. And the disconnect with the mask, the disconnect, like I'm talking to you now and you have no idea, like it's already just a disconnect. So even in the shopping centre, I'll go up to someone and I'll say, hey, I'm smiling at you. Can you see it? Or something like that. And they'll say, yeah, I can hear it in your voice. You're smiling. It's really difficult, isn't it? It's not something that we're used to. Jan.
Sorry, Jan, you go, and then I'll just say something.
Yeah, I met a lady today who had a cute dog down at the beach. And, you know, we said, oh, cute dog. And she pulled a mask off and she said, I'm deaf, so I couldn't understand what, I didn't, just because you were gesturing, I knew you were talking to me. I didn't want you to think I was rude.
Yeah.
And so this is giving me a shiver down my back. The mask is affecting people in ways we'd never imagine. That's just cut off this woman's communication with people that you walk past at the beach, like it and I could go on, but I won't. I'll stop.
You make a valid point, Jan. You really do. And the thing is, though, as you were saying that, I can totally relate, because that's what we're used to here in our country, right? And in Western countries. Now, notice when we go to countries where they have the burqas on all the time, that in itself, they find that that's how they communicate, and they've created ways in which they communicate to get their point across even though they've just got their eyes. So it's what we're used to and the habits that we get into, but it is definitely challenging. I know my granddaughter pulled it off the other day because she couldn't see me. I could, she could see my eyes, but she just kept crying. She wanted me to pull off my mask so that I can speak with her, because that's what we're used to. It just creates so much. And again, there's 19 different expressions that we give through our smile and our mouth. And so that alone suddenly disappeared and we have nothing.
So Alex, I'm conscious of time, and we are starting to lose some people, which is normal because we said it would go till 8 o'clock. I think I'm going to make future events longer anyway, because it's just such a wonderful conversation. Is there any other content that you wanted to share before we start to wrap up?
I was getting to the questions. If anyone had any questions, or what did they learn? What did they love? How can they use this? And who will they share this with?
I would love to ask a question.
Yes.
It's how is it important for you to use a Milton language during the communication with the people, during your presentations?
Yeah, I love that. Great question. Milton language is so key, and it's so powerful. And I used it just a moment ago when I spoke about aggressive customers. I found that helped me in my time within the prison system, but also at Centrelink, where I changed the tonality of my voice. But also archetypically, I changed my physiology to suit so I can bring them down from becoming aggressive. So it's matching that particular person and softening the situation so that it appeases and it dissipates the conflict. So Milton language is almost like it's an emotional communication. It brings out the emotion to I guess appease the situation. I trust that's answered your question.
Alex, can you just explain to people who aren't in coaching what that actually means, because they're probably thinking, what the hell?
What Milton language?
Yeah, just sort of a quick summary of what it means.
Milton language, great question. And Sergi, sorry, do you do coaching as well, or?
Yes. And at this moment, we are on the How to Run Your Successful workshop.
Oh, terrific. Awesome. Fantastic. So Milton language is, and I can't remember the whole history. Help me out here, Wendy. I've not sort of, but Milton language is changing the tonality and the speed of our voice to be able to create that rapport. It's a warm chocolate type of tonality, it's a softener, if you will. So for example, if someone was going to approach you and they were very angry, just to give you an idea, because that's the space I work in more so, I would be actually softening my voice, not straight away. I'd be bringing it down slowly. So if they're really loud, I'll start loud, but not as loud as them, and then bring my tonality down to the point where I'm about here. And I understand. I totally get that you're pissed off. How can I make this different for you right now? And right there, they've got nowhere to go, because all of a sudden they've come down, that you see their whole physiology changing and actually calming down as well. So it's changing and shifting the tonality of our voice, the tone of our voice, and the speed of our voice to suit the situation. Trust that makes sense. That's just a very, a very brief explanation of it.
Absolutely. I think you use the pacing of their voice and tonality to lead with the calmness.
Yeah. And with the practice, it makes progress, right? So it just happens automatically once you practice it all the time. You know that it's time to bring it down, or time to maybe lift it back up again, depending on the circumstance. So it's pace, lead, so to speak. Yeah. Terrific. Any other questions? Hi, Jody.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
I'd love to know a little bit more about what your role was, like what you were hired to do within the prison system and how you got there.
Absolutely. I'm curious as to for what purpose.
I've just always been really interested in the prison system. I actually studied criminology in uni, and then my brother's actually in and out of the prison system at the moment, and he has been for about 6 years. He's an ice addict. And I've just always, I'm studying coaching. I'm quite new, but I always wondered how, like, if it's possible to take that into that kind of realm and help people within that system, and how you were led to that space, if it was through coaching or through something else that you were doing. It's just really interesting for me.
Absolutely, no worries. Thank you for asking. Would it benefit everyone here for me to answer that question?
Can I actually suggest that it's a beautiful question, Jody.
It is, yeah.
If maybe you could share how people could connect with you.
Yes.
You could have a one-on-one conversation through LinkedIn or whatever your forum is for answering the question. I'm just conscious of time.
Yeah,
perfect.
Absolutely. Yeah, great. Absolutely, Wendy. So Jody, please connect with me. You can connect with me either on LinkedIn, and I'll give you my details. Is there going to be an email that you'll be sending everybody, Wendy, or how's it going to work?
No, you put your details into the chat box if you like, and people can take it from there.
Okay.
I generally don't email out unless there's sort of something specific to send, which there isn't in this case. So if you put your email in the chat box, LinkedIn, Alex has a wonderful presence on LinkedIn for anyone who would like to connect with her. As I said, I sort of, what is the word, trawl? Every time I open up LinkedIn, Alex is there. So I'm always seeing what she's doing, which is incredible. So thank you very much, Alex. Before I sort of start to wrap up, is there anything else you would like to share as well, Alexandra?
I just want to say thank you for tonight, and thank you for being such an incredible team, and for engaging, and for your wonderful insights and shares and your experiences. I'd love to connect with you outside of this forum, so please get in touch. I am on LinkedIn, and my full name is Alexandra Egan, so if you're wanting to connect with me on there, I'd be more than happy to do that. I'm also happy to share with you the PowerPoint PDF if you would like it. Please let me know, and I can certainly somehow, or flick me an email and then I'll reply to it.
Perhaps, Alexandra, if you're prepared to share that, if you want to send that to me, and I will email everybody out.
Great.
With your contact details, and then they can be in contact with you. How about we do that?
I'll include the talk sheet because it's some really great stuff in the talk sheet as well. So I'll include that for you so that you've got it, and please feel free to use it. I think it's really key. And if there's anything more that I can, if there's anything more that you need or any more information, feel free to connect with me, and I'll be more than happy to have a chat with you outside of this forum. So I was going to say thank you for rocking out tonight. I've had such a great time, and it's been wonderful meeting you all.
Yeah, thank you. Can we all
thank you, Alexandra. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Can everybody anyone who's got their cameras off, if you can quickly put them on, and we'll just take a photo of all clapping. All clapping, Alexandra. Yay!
Oh, sorry.
Yay! All right, that'll do. Thanks very much, Alexandra. Alex,
thanks, guys.
I called you Alex. I've sort of get mixed up with your name. So I really, as you said, I loved everybody's engagement, everybody's interest in the topic. It's been incredible, and thank you everyone for being here. Thanks everybody who's coming, also supporting the charity Destiny Rescue.
Yes.
It is an extremely worthy cause, so I really appreciate that. I took some key learnings out tonight, but in the interest of time I won't share them, except that how beautifully deep communication can be, and how important it is for us all to develop our ability to communicate is probably the overarching message that came out.
Can I just say one more thing? Just one thing. I just want to acknowledge each and every one of you for the wonderful work that you're doing right now. You know, nurses and people in community services and everyone, you guys are incredible. And I think what you do really, really matters right now. So I just want to say thank you for what you do. You're amazing.
Thank you. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So
Thanks, guys.
I've just launched a poll. If everybody can just quickly give us some feedback on the event, would be great. I should have put it up early before people started disappearing, but just do your best with filling out that. Thank you very much again. Our next Coaching Connect is on the 20th of October with another incredible speaker. I don't know whether they're as incredible as what Alex is, but we certainly got a treat tonight. So it's truly been wonderful, Alex. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, again. I will get an email out to you, and I really appreciate it. Good night, and
thanks, guys.
Everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.
Take
Good
care
night.
of yourselves.
Thank you.
Bye
You
now.
too. Bye-bye.
Bye, Alex.
Bye.
Bye,
Thanks,
Wendy.
guys.